Hey folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. I'm going to be talking dirty to you today, so be prepared. I've got some really dirty things to say. Yes, we are talking about dirt, soil. This came from a viewer. Mary had asked a while back about talking about the soil here in the Ozarks and how to grow in it. And I thought, well, there's people that live other places than just the Ozarks, but a lot of the principles apply to creating a good garden soil to grow your fruits and vegetables, medicinal and seasoning herbs. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys out there that's all gung-ho prepper and you like hearing those prepperish, videos. Well, I'm telling you, there's not too many things that you can do in your life that's being more prepared, being more of a prepper than growing your own food. Seriously. So if you're not doing it, you need to do it. And I really can't think of any situation where you just wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, even if you live in an apartment, there's all sorts of resources out there to show you how you can grow things in your own apartment. So you guys and gals, if you're not growing your own food, you need to be doing that. And one of the most important things when growing your own food is the soil. What kind of soil, that you need to try to have to grow good vegetables and fruits. Here in the Ozarks, people joke a lot about the rocky soil that we have, and it is true. But that is pretty common for most places that have a lot of hills and mountains because, well, hills and mountains are formed by rocks. So therefore, we typically have a pretty rocky soil. Although there are many places, especially low bottom areas next to rivers and stuff, that you can find. I know one guy that he has a nice field next to a river, and he's got at least 18 inches of amazing topsoil, and you can just about drive a T-post by hand, with your bare hands. It's just the soil is so nice and loose and not a rock in it. But that's not the case for everyone. So there's all kinds of information out there on tilling, no tilling, permaculture, lasagna gardening, putting wood chips on it. And I am no expert in any of those, but I'm just going to tell you what my experience is from growing my own food. And I've actually worked for a very well-known heirloom seed company in this area. I did for a while as a part-time job, side job. And my job there was being a gardener. And so I worked several acres of gardens. So I do have some experience in it. So without further ado, let's start getting dirty. All right. I don't know how this is going to work. I got to put the camera down a little bit. I got one of these microphones with a cord on it so that hopefully you can hear me, but you'll probably see the cord and all that. But, I think it'll be okay. You guys will forgive me, won't you? All right. Now, I have some examples of what you can do to improve your soil. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But what I have here are just some different levels of compost that I've been working on here on the property to give you an idea of kind of what's going on. I meant to have our what we call the dump bucket or compost bucket, which is where we collect all of our clippings in the house, food and stuff. But unfortunately, I made the mistake of we already dumped it today. So, anyways, this is just some old hay. Could be grass, could be leaves. This represents carbon. When you're doing compost, you typically want to have a 25-to-1 to 30-to-1 ratio of carbon and nitrogen. With that, you want to add some moisture and allow oxygen to get in. And when all of that is combined, you're going to heat the material up and then encourage the growth of microorganisms, which is going to break it down. And so that's what you're wanting is a good balance there. About a 25-to-1 ratio is usually what I shoot for when it comes to carbon and nitrogen. Carbon is typically dead plant material, grass clippings, old hay, old straw, leaves, wood chips. That's your carbon. Your nitrogen is basically anything that is food or that was food, meaning poop. Poop is your friend. If you don't like poop and you want to homestead, you need to change your opinion on poop because it is your friend. So this next pile here is some of my compost that is, well, there's a little bit of junk in it, that is ready to use. I'm going to jump up there in front of the camera so you can kind of get a good picture of it, see it. This is my compost. This is mixture of food, poo-poo, straw, hay, some wood chips, leaves, a little bit of everything. And that is what I add to my garden every year. This pile here, I'm not going to pick it up and bring it to you because it's pretty fresh poop where I cleaned some stalls for the calf. I don't think any of you probably need to get a close-up of what poop looks like. You probably have a good idea. But anyways, this will heat up with moisture and air, and it'll start to break down because of the microorganisms that'll get in there and start munching on it, and it'll feed. And between the moisture and the air, it heats up, it breaks everything down, and after a while, this will turn into this. And so that is the very simple, composting. I know you can get much more technical. I'm going to jump up here and move the camera. You can get a lot more technical with it, more scientific, and it is kind of interesting to learn more of the details and the types of organisms and stuff, but really, that's the basics. So, that is something you need. Yes, you can buy it. There are places that you can get compost, and if you need in large quantities, especially starting out, that's probably okay as long as you know it's pretty good quality. But you need to start doing this. Take everything that, your food in your house, if you cut up an onion and there's some pieces left, or celery, or carrots, potato peelings, anything like that can go in that. Now, people ask about meat products. You can compost meat too. I would do that separately because meat takes longer to compost than human manure or even manure from animals that are carnivorous, meaning they have meat in their poop. Okay, so meat and poop from meat can be used. A lot of people say it can't. A lot of people have some worries about it. As long as it's set, and I would say at least 2 years of composting, although it doesn't really have to be that long, but that's a good safe time. 2 years of composting, making sure that it's getting a good temperature so that it kills off any bacteria that could possibly be in it. You're probably going to be okay. I know that Sister Kate over at Shofar Mountain had mentioned in one of her videos recently about using cat poo. I don't know, cats they eat everything. Of course, so do dogs, but they also carry a lot of bacteria and stuff that's not safe for humans. So I'm not sure that I would ever use cat poop. There seems to be a lot of others. For us, chicken, ducks, geese, goat, sheep, although we're currently no goat, no sheep farm. That's soon to change again. And then we have a calf, which they produce lots of poo. So, we have no shortage of poo right now. And most farms and homesteads don't. So you take that, your old straw, your old hay, bedding, we put bedding in, like in the chicken coop, especially now in the wintertime, and then you go to clean it out, all that stuff, because it's got poo mixed in it. It's great. You clean out the stalls for your goats, your sheep, your calves, your cows, horses, any of that kind of stuff. That's excellent, excellent material to compost. So let's go back to what I originally said about, or talked about the Ozarks and their soil. Yeah, most places in the Ozarks pretty rocky. Let me see if I was going to do this just as a demonstration. Got a shovel here. Let me watch the camera and see. Let me scoot some stuff out. Now, some of you are fortunate enough, I don't think you can see me, Some of you are fortunate enough to live in areas where your soil is amazing. This is Missouri soil. Can you hear that? I've gone maybe a half an inch and I'm hitting rocks. Okay, does that mean that the soil is bad? No, it does not mean that the soil is bad. It just means that the soil is rocky. There's a difference. Most of the Ozark soil is actually pretty fertile. And the reason is, let me get a handful of that. And the reason is because of all these leaves in the background. It's good forest soil. And even areas that are pasture, a lot of times they've only been pastures for just a few years because they were once forest. Most of this region, 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago was just solid forest. There really wasn't much open grassland in the Ozarks. Most of what you see now of pastures and stuff is where man went in and cleared it out. So unless they've been there for a long time, it's possible that there's still some good rich soil. And digging this up, it's good looking soil. You just have a lot of rocks in it. Okay, so now we do have red clay, but typically that's a little bit deeper down. So if you dig real deep, you'll start hitting red clay. But you usually have a good 4 to 6 inches of good topsoil or more. You just have lots of rocks. So what do you do? Well, the popular thing now is no tilling. The reason why you don't want to till is because there's natural organisms, microorganisms, the same stuff that's in all that compost that I told you about that breaks it down is in your soil. Also worms, larger organisms and stuff. And when you till it, you flip that stuff over and some of those organisms now are exposed to the sun and they'll die. And so there is a legitimate reason to not till your gardens, to till your soil, because you can lessen the amounts of good microorganisms in that soil because they're now being exposed to the sun. But what if you have soil like this that's full of rocks? My suggestion, if you say, let's say you buy a place, and here's another tip or another thing. A lot of you don't have a lot of money. And so when you go to buy a place, let's say you're moving to the Ozarks, sounds like something falling out of a tree back there. When you move to the Ozarks or other places, Appalachians, Smoky Mountains, that's where I originated from, and you don't have the money to go out and buy prime land. And here's the thing, ever since, man started farming, since God created us and told us we had to get out of, Garden of Eden because of our misbehaviors and sins, we've been looking and searching for the most prime farmland. Wars for centuries have been fought over it, the best soil to grow. So the soil that's best for growing is typically going to be more expensive. A lot of times what you can afford, it may not be the best soil for growing. You have to make it the better soil. So if you moved onto this property and this is the soil that you had, not bad, but lots of rocks, I would advise to go in and till it or plow it. Get it mixed up, try to pull out as much of the rocks as you can. You can do the no-till lasagna method, but it's going to take a few years for that to really fully take effect. So let's say, here we are, it's February, almost March. Let's say you're moving on to a place here soon. You don't have enough time for the process of lasagna gardening, which is where it's just layers of, cardboard and compost and wood chips and that kind of stuff, manure. There's not enough time for that process to take place. It really takes a few years for that to really be effective. So I would advise you to go ahead and till it or plow it, whatever you can do, and try to get as much of the rocks out. Then go back and immediately start adding to that soil, bringing compost, wood chips, straw, things like that. And then every year, typically what I do is at the end of the year when I'm putting my beds to rest for the winter, I add stuff to them. And then I let that set for the winter, and then about this time of the year, around March, when I'm just getting ready to start planting, I start adding some more stuff to it. Most gardeners will tell you that if you're starting from scratch with ground, if you're starting from this or from your backyard where there's never been a garden, that it takes around 5 years to get good soil. You know, unless you've just got a lot of money to have professionals come in and make it perfect the first year. It's probably going to take you about 5 years to develop good fertile soil. Soil, good garden soil, you know, if you guys have seen like the big huge crop farmers where it's hundreds and hundreds of acres and they turn that stuff and it's kind of this sandy light brown looking color, maybe even a dark brown, but it's dry looking, that's not good soil. That's soil that's been, you know, overused. It has no nutrition in it, and that's why they have to use all the chemicals on it, just the same way they do with animals, because there's no nutrition in the soil. You don't want that. If your plants are extremely healthy, they will repel, you know, certain pests on their own to a certain extent. I mean, you may still have to help them out, but healthy plants have their own natural abilities to repel pests. So you want soil, that soil that I was showing you. You can't smell it, but I'm telling you, it actually smells really good. A good, deep, earthy, mushroomy smell. Almost, and it looks, you know, rich and moist. You know, it almost looks like chocolate cake, you know, like you could eat it. That's what you're wanting. Be careful of the bagged stuff you get in the stores, especially anything that says organic. There is no regulation on putting organic on garden soils or potting soils or anything like that. So, you know, I could go and dig it out of a, you know, nuclear waste dump and put organic on it and sell it, and it'd be fine. So be careful with that kind of stuff. Sometimes your local nurseries and stuff will have their own compost that they make, and you can buy it in bags, buckets, or truckloads. That might be your best option. If you have to get it at a big box store, just know that you're probably not getting really good stuff. But soil is key, really, to having a good garden. Soil, obviously sunlight and water, but you really have to have a good soil and work on it all the time, and building those layers up of wood chips and, you know, broken down compost like this, and then also, you know, other carbon material like, you know, grass or straw, hay, things like that. Don't put fresh manure on, because fresh manure it's green or hot manure, and it can burn your plants. About the only thing that you could put on it that's not would be rabbit manure. You can use that. That's considered cold, meaning it won't burn it. It doesn't have as much nitrogen in it. That's the problem. You know, if I took this cow manure and put it on my garden, it has so much nitrogen in it, it'll kill the plants. So don't do that. Anyways, I know that a lot of you already know this. There's people out there that probably has way more knowledge and experience than I do on gardening. But I also know that there's some that don't. And so I wanted to talk about this. And again, for all you hardcore prepper guys out there, this is just as important as that super cool, ultra tactical AR-15 you have. Trust me, it is. Because eventually your beans and your rice that you have stored are going to run out, okay? You can't have an endless supply of that. And you need to know how to do this so that you can grow your own food. All right. Go ahead and ask any questions in the comments or shoot me an email. I'll be glad to answer it if I can. If I don't understand it or don't know, I'll tell you, or maybe point you in the better direction. Because I'm not an expert, but I do love to garden. We've got a winter weather advisory for tonight, and it's just getting me in the mood to start planting. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.